A former drug dealer, who has been through all the circles of hell, decides to retire and forget about his dark past. But the past doesn't intend to just let him go. Casey and Chris are a young couple living an ordinary life. One night a phone call rings in their house. It's Nick, Casey's former sidekick. He, unlike his friend, is still involved in criminal affairs. Nick arrives at the friend's house. He is surprised at how much Casey has changed his life. The guy leads a healthy lifestyle, runs a house and works as an architect. His wife doesn't know about his spouse's dark past. Nick assures that he has also changed. He talks about his business and that he is going to get married, referring to an important meeting. The guest leaves, borrowing a friend's car. Casey, putting away the mate's things in the room, sees a briefcase. It was with such a suitcase that they did their dark deeds. The boy chases the bad guesses away. But curiosity compels him to open the case. Seeing that it's full of heroin, Casey becomes furious. He calls a friend, but the friend only gives him the runaround. The landlord begins to dispose of the drugs frantically, washing them down the sink. A few minutes later the doorbell rings. A dark-skinned guy, disguised as a pizza delivery man, enters the house. He points a gun at Casey and asks him to give him the heroin. Having learnt that all the drugs have gone to the recycling center, the stranger informs him that he has to kill Casey. The stranger gladly agrees to smoke weed and ice. As he introduces himself, dreams of becoming a rapper. He gets a call from the studio asking him to perform one of his songs over the phone. Casey takes advantage of Ice's confusion and knocks him out, ties him up and locks him in the garage. At that moment Dr. Jervis comes to see him. He has come about the foster child the couple want to take in. Chris has already had an individual interview. Now it's Casey's turn. Their conversation is interrupted by a noise from the garage. The man apologizes to the doctor and goes out. There he hangs Ice by his feet from the ceiling beam to keep him quiet, at which point the liberated beauty Dallas appears on the doorstep. She unceremoniously passes into the living room and, ignoring Casey's protests, sits down on the sofa. When the guy leaves to take a phone call, the girl has a very frank conversation with the doctor. Taking the opportunity, the doctor asks about Casey's past and Dallas tells in colors about the guy's criminal life. After listening to the story, Dr. Jervis leaves, not wanting to listen to the guy's excuses. The girl takes the owner of the house hostage. Having learnt that there are no drugs, she demands money from the guy. Having received a refusal to her request, Dallas rapes the bound man. The process is interrupted by a gunshot that blows the horny bitch's brains out. She was killed by Bill Hill. The guy shows off a bag of torture equipment. When he hears a noise outside, he tapes Casey's mouth shut and leaves the room. When Billy returns, the guy has already freed himself from the duct tape on his hands and armed himself with a frying pan. He stabs the man several times and hangs him in the garage with Ice. Nick calls Casey. He says he stole the money and hid it and directed all traces of it to a friend's house. The man apologizes and advises him to get out of town. Nick is seriously injured and that may have been his last call. Casey is tidying up the house, cleaning up all traces of blood. When Detective Kasarov appears on the doorstep, the man places a bag on the floor, with Nick's head inside. He wants the money that the accomplice stole from the police officers. Kasarov is sure that Casey can remember where the friend could hide them. He offers the guy a deal. He must bring the money before 7 o'clock in the evening, and in return will receive a cleanup of the house from the corpses and further happy family life. Casey finds the money that Nick hid in the spare wheel of his car. There he also finds 2 pairs of watches. It is a gift from a friend for him and Chris. At the appointed time, the police led by Kasarov and several big drug dealers come to the guy's house. The guy himself isn't in the house. He pitted those who dared to interfere with his measured life against each other. Casey at this time meets his wife at the airport. He informs Chris that he has to urgently fly away and offers to go with him. She has to make a decision right now. The girl agrees. The couple leaves to start a new life with $2 million.